Thank you so much for joining us. It's such an honor to have you on this call and to get to ask you questions and learn from all of your experience.
No, it's great. And I love being with the fam. So thanks for having me and really great to be here. Excited to chat all things marketing and beyond, and also get to know some students and help in any way I can.
Beautiful. All right, shall we get started?
Yeah,
Let's
can do.
let's do it.
Okay, so do you want to go ahead and get started with some questions?
Sure. So, just right off the bat, like it's just such an interesting time to be interested, like whether it's as an enthusiast or as a developer or someone who's actually working in the industry. It's a constantly changing environment, and it's constantly what people are expecting and what people are looking for are changing, whether it's because of new innovations or because of just overall sentiment. So I'm kind of curious from like Algorand's perspective, when you're marketing, how do you what is it called? How do you make sure that everything that you are staying topical and you are staying ahead of the trends and ahead of the curve?
Yeah, no, definitely happy to chat about it. And also um maybe I can just say a hello. I don't know if folks, like everyone here may know me, but hey, I'm Jess, CMO, Algorand Foundation. I would say this is month 5 about that I'm entering, and it's so much learning. Been really appreciative of this incredible community that has welcomed me with open arms. But yeah, I just want to say hello, and then answer your question. So yeah, you're asking around, just as we think about like the rapid evolution, right, of the industry, right? How do I think about staying ahead of the curve in terms of like the needs, the relevance, and just like market trends? And then how do we like think about just really reaching and differentiating? One, I would say, is like deeply listening to our community. Like, this is never a one-way conversation. And I think Web 2, in a lot of the ways I've seen, it's all about like what can we blast out, and it's really a different way. It's like a completely different way of sensing and engaging on the ground. And I think, again, like being on the ground in conferences, like engaging with our championship, like our community champions, influencers, some of those as part of the community who actively like share back with us,
Mm.
and also like how do we, like, I think a big part is like that listening to the community. I think it's something that I'm not as familiar with in my past worlds, but now it's like it's never been more important. So I think that's like number one. Number two, I think a lot about. I've been grateful to make an incredible network of like industry marketing experts in the Web3 space, who also have welcomed me with open arms, and kind of help bring me up to speed, but also keep one another very much up to date on things that are happening in the industry overall. So I think like number one is like listening to the community is really a pulse of like the Algorand ecosystem, the Algorand community itself. On the ground conferences, again, really like getting a pulse on like what's happening in like on the ground. But then I think this network of like industry marketing experts is a great way to keep up to date on like broader, very like relevant, I feel like day to day changing. And then of course, like for students, especially if you want to just like learn and kind of get up to speed, like crypto news and like email newsletters, there's some really great ones to like get super familiar with. And so those are like, I would say those are 3 ways to like stay ahead of the curve, and for those to like learn and grow in your marketing capabilities.
And like, I want to get like a better idea of like, how did you actually break into this industry? Like, what was your start? What was your journey? Like, walk us through it all.
Yeah. I say that I think in a lot of ways like Web3 found me, versus necessarily me finding Web3. I think a lot of people have their first Web3 stories. Me personally, I've had some of my best friends. One who actually has been like long time in this space. Some of them just like would keep me very close up to speed since I was in Web 2, but a lot of the work I was doing was in Web 3. Some of it around like, when I was at Meta, as well as like around avatars, as well as like payments back and forth, like cross border. It it was stuff that I was already reading and kind of being familiar with, but it really was like the friendships I built outside in the Web3 space that really started to pull me in. And then finally, I would say, meeting the rest of the executive team at Algorand in Singapore as part of Token 2049 really was like a big moment in kind of realizing, wow, this is like such a breakthrough, innovative space. It is so hard, but there is so much on the other side. You know what they say, like there's gold on the other end of the rainbow. But there is a sense that like, we are so nascent, and I really am such a fan of, building in white space. And so I think that's a big reason why I came over.
Jess, I realized that I was so excited to dive into the questions that I just forgot to do intros. So thank you so much for stepping
Yeah.
in and and sharing your background. So I want to backtrack a little bit and introduce ourselves and why we're here today. So I'll go ahead and get started really quickly. My name is Daniela. I am from Colombia, and I've been in the crypto and blockchain space for about 5 years now. Previously to joining Beth, I worked at my own startup, and I actually had the pleasure to meet Jess at Consensus, where we hosted a student hub at the conference, which was such a beautiful, incredible experience to be able to meet students in person, like develop relationships, and just learn about all of the amazing things that the students are building. So, what we do at BAF, at Blockchain Acceleration Foundation, or BAF, is we accelerate blockchain adoption. And the way we do this is by working with students at the university level, and we support them in taking that next step in their blockchain career by connecting them with resources, supporting them in building, connecting them with our partners such as Algorand. So if you're interested in joining BAF, please go ahead and reach out to any of us. There's a lot of people in the team here. BAF is in our bio. And yeah, we're just super excited to have these sessions where we are adding value to the community by teaching the community about all of the different initiatives that Algorand is doing. So that's me. I'm going to pass the mic over to my co-host, and then Jess, because I've met you before and I've heard your intro, I know you just spoke a little bit about your background, but I would really love for us to learn a little bit more on your background in case there are any marketers or maybe future marketers. I would love to hear also, like, just tell us a little bit of your path, like what brought you here, and what can students learn from your background on how you made it here.
Awesome. I can definitely do that. Does your co-host want to make an intro first?
Yeah. My name is Clifford, and I'm representing blockchain at FIU, and we're based out of Florida International University. And blockchain at FIU is 100% focused on just educating, innovating, and connecting students to the world of Web3. So we've been operational for the past year, and ever since then, it's kind of just exploded out of nowhere. Like, it was kind of unexpected to see how many students were interested, how well the university was receiving it. So now, especially moving forward, it's all about how can we make sure that we get students the opportunities that they deserve. So how can we get them into networking events? How can we get them into conferences? How can we get them the job opportunities? Because there's so many people in the marketing field in Web3. There's so many people who are software developers and engineers at our university that are looking for their opportunity, but because of how new the blockchain space is, they just don't really know what the path is. So through blockchain at FIU, we try to, like, not only bring in guest speakers and give technical lessons, but also try to pair students with those job opportunities so that they can have the type of future that they are looking for.
Awesome. No, it's such a pleasure to be here. And I think, again, education is like a foundational pillar at Algorand. And I think also it's for the industry as a whole, in order to really drive true comprehension. Education is so crucial at this time. So I just love what you guys are doing. And that's why, joined to support. And yeah, so just, Daniela, answering your question around my background. I started out fundamentally in big tech. I've always been in the consumer experience space. So I started out at Apple really thinking about, and I do remember interning in college. So just for those, students out there, I went to Cal Berkeley, and I double majored in business as well as in Chinese studies. I would say my path really began, interning at Apple, and they ended up sending me out as an expat to Asia, where I helped them really look at their customer experience and customer journey and launching retail and online in Asia, which was an incredible experience. So all students, if you ever get a chance to work abroad, I highly recommend you to do it. And then from there, I ended up moving back for grad school. So for those who ever want to talk about business school or grad school, you can DM me on here on Twitter. But yeah, so I ended up going to grad school. Pros and cons. I'm not going to go into it. Pros and cons in going to Kellogg Northwestern, where I pivoted heavy into like deep marketing consumer strategy. And ended up joining Nike. So I'm a huge fan of sport. I do think as part of your career trajectory, following your passions, and really going along into something that you're really passionate about. For me, again, like sport and like woman empowerment was just like a perfect fit. So I ended up joining Nike. Really got to dive in and helping with the World Cup 2018 campaign. Led a lot of marketing initiatives tied to like jersey culture, as well as like athletes, and then moved into more like sneaker culture. So dropping, heat with like Air, and a few other just really incredible opportunities, and really, I would say early days of like community and digital marketing. It was an incredible time. And then from there, moved more back into big tech, where I joined Meta and I was leading global privacy marketing for WhatsApp. And so it was also the early stages of building out the brand. It was a product that was loved by 2.5 billion people, but really like building out from a marketing perspective, like how we sound, how we look, how we feel, and really evolving the brand as well to be more relevant to young people. So that was kind of my world before that. And then I kind of shared a little bit how I, ended up through my time at Meta, and then now go joining the team just this year at Algorand Foundation, which has been, yeah, huge learning journey. Really, also teaching me a lot on how marketing needs to shift as a whole, and how there are pros and cons of Web2 marketing as well.
That was well deserved. Yes, that is the whole intro that I remember from Consensus, and we were all like jaw on the floor, like this woman is amazing. All right,
Yeah.
amazing. So, bringing it back to some of the questions that we have prepped for you, I am really curious to hear about this challenge, right, of you working at Algorand and how you are working on some different initiatives and strategies from other blockchain platforms. And I'm wondering, like, what are some of the different strategies that you're putting in place to kind of differentiate Algorand from the rest?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to talk about it. And some things that are on like in the cooker, so some that I won't be able to be as explicit about, but I can definitely talk about some things that we've been really excited about. I would say first and foremost, it is a very, very crowded space. It is, I think everyone is talking the same in terms of our technically driven features. We're more faster, cheaper than the rest, and I think it's incredibly important to stand out. More than ever, to really drive like from a reputational standpoint as well as credibility standpoint. I am glad that bar to none, like Algorand, like still is like best in class tech, so we can actually stand on a lot of the things that we say when it comes to our true differentiation points around like reliability, certainty, scalability. Um, but it is a crowded space. And so I would say some things that I've been really proud of the team in driving. I think first is like the launch of AlgoKit 1.0 and beyond. And for us, in terms of like marketing strategies, so that was a really like, I think, meaningful initiative. But what we did about it was we just really highlighted like user simplicity and solving dev problems, right? We were really hyper focused on like who we were talking to. And I think regardless if you're a Web2, Web3, it's just incredibly important to know who you're talking to and to really understand like what kind of problems are you actually solving for them. And then you're not marketing the product, you're actually marketing the benefits for them. And that's really important when we think about marketing. And also what I loved about AlgoKit 1.0, what we did was we leveraged a lot of like developer quotes and user stories. So like developer stories of them, what they could do with AlgoKit, like in like 10 seconds and or faster, just how they're able to share their experience of like ease, and like almost like enjoyment, and the step change that they experienced. And so we, leveraged a lot of quotes and a lot of like, again, of advocacy to really launch, and definitely have seen like a tons of growth on that side, as well. So I'm really, really proud of that. And then secondly, what I'm really proud of is like, seeing a lot more engagement at a local grassroots level, right? So especially, in like, I think it's incredibly important for us to think about the developing markets. Like, you're in Colombia, for us, like India, Brazil, Vietnam, right? The level of like community and hacks and like ambassadors hosting meetups, really encouraging like that kind of learning about blockchain for the first time. I really do think, like, for me, like one of my strategic pillars is around increased connection points and education comprehension in developing markets, because that's really where a lot of the growth and really meaningful partnerships are. Um, Beyond that, I would say, there's some initiatives that we've really been driving around, like partnering with several projects to drive growth from a user standpoint, and then also like how do we, start building out a brand, and so there's that's actually going to be rolled out. Definitely tune in to the next Algorand town hall, where we're going to be sharing, yeah, just really how we are humanizing the brand, making it incredibly differentiated but also understandable, to both from all the way to the everyday, to the developer, to institutional, and beyond. So yeah, those are just a few things, that I'm excited about. A lot more things to come. I would say some like meaningful partnerships really will allow us to differentiate ourselves. But I'm talking about kind of like the more immediate, like what I'm really proud of.
Awesome, Jess. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Algo Kit is?
Yes, definitely. So for those who are, I think there's a few folks here who are really familiar in the Algorand space, but for us, we really care a lot about developer experience, developer tooling, and so for us, AlgoKit is, was like the first time we kind of really pulled together and marketed, a like a very simple and easy access and onboarding point. So it is the first major developer tooling initiative to launch under our new CTO. His name's John Woods, who, for those who don't know him, and he's incredible. And it really was built with like UX in mind to make Algorand like the easiest, most seamless, and approachable blockchain for builders. So think of like a Web2 like developer experience on Algorand. It's like quote unquote batteries included. So that's what AlgoKit is, and we were able to market it. Um, and I think, again, there's a lot of, this was like a 1.0, right? So there's a lot more to come, and very excited to talk more about it.
What has been some of like the initial reception from AlgoKit, whether it's from internal teams working on it or just initial product testers?
It's been fun. Like, honestly, like, I'm all about dog fooding, and in my past worlds, like, we did a ton of dog fooding. Um, there's been some really, like, I think the fact that people are surprised in some sense, like how quickly they could make something, how easy to use it is. I have some fun quotes here, like real quotes from devs. Um, like, Algorithm massively simplifies things. Like, everything worked right out of a box. Finally tried it. It's like really good DX. Um, the like we are. I think it's incredibly important to get feedback. And so I think there has been like a level of like, oh wow, this is like better than I thought, and like this is faster than I thought. Has been a lot of the kind of feedback we've gotten.
So, since you mentioned like that, one of the things that you've been experiencing is just seeing like an improved experience overall for developers. I was wondering, like, as someone who's the CMO, like, how do you measure success, like, for your any marketing efforts that you have for Algorand?
Yeah, and I think for me, this has been like a really big learning opportunity, because there are like base level marketing, marketing efforts that people, that people just like naturally track on across whatever industry you're in. So like reach, impression, relevance, engagement, those are all like, really standard like marketing KPIs that, for anything that you run, anything that you're outside, just those are just like benchmark. But for here, like when it comes to like how do these really impact our real business, um, the primary ones that, you know, starting to really like double down on is like on-chain transactions, developer growth, and really thinking of it full funnel, right? So in terms of like developer acquisition and specifically experienced developers, think about user growth on our dApps, and then monthly active wallets is also super important from a business standpoint. So I kind of am, in some sense, I'm describing a top of funnel and bottom, like top of funnel and middle of a funnel kind of approach. Like the marketing ones are very top of funnel, which are things that you can drive awareness overall. And then the actual like actions we want people to take and behaviors that we want to see that impact our real business are kind of the primary ones I just described.
Thanks, Jess. Yeah, kind of like building on that question. I would love to hear what has been like your biggest difference in working in like the Web3 and looking at Web3 KPIs versus Web2 and like Web2 KPIs. And like, I would love to hear if that's been like a fun challenge, if it's been like more on the challenging side, and like how you have navigated that.
Yeah, it is different. Again, I think the marketing ones are similar, but I think what's challenging is there's a lot of things that are not on chain that we do need to track. And so there's, again, when you think about, you know, your KPI measurement and like funnel building, it is easier when you can track something full funnel. So you can track something all the way through. Here, because there's certain things that get anonymized, there's certain things that are off chain, on chain. I think in general, and I think this is not an Algorand thing. This is like an industry challenge of like, how do you really measure, and like how do you really measure and how do you really track, and how do you track customers when there's like so many different players? There's like different dApps, and then there's different, so there's just a lot of different things going, right? You have like from all the way from DeFi NFT to like real world tokenization on chain. Like there's just, I think the diversity, what I'm seeing here, it makes it hard sometimes to really evaluate fully and also know where you place your bets. And I think this is again a true thing across the industry. um, I think in Web 2, for example, if you're in Web 2 e-commerce, it's like, did they, you know, how's the basket size, like how much do they really buy? Like you can track a consumer end to end from digital onward. But here I think again it's a little bit more, the data sets are a bit more disparate, which I do think make it harder in general. But I think it's been a great problem for us to really tackle and try to solve and find solutions around. But yeah, I just definitely think there are differences.
That's really interesting. You know, with this whole world of data and things that we can't track, it definitely becomes a challenge to see how to track them and what actually matters the most. So I can definitely see how that must be like a really interesting space to navigate as a marketer. So Jess, you spoke a little bit about the initiatives that you have done or have been a part of so far that have been exciting. Are there any initiatives that you're working on in the near future that you feel really, really excited about?
Yeah, I'm gonna allude to a few. I think one I already kind of touched upon. One around devs. So again, AlgoKit evolving to be even more smarter and helpful for mass developers, which I think is again going to solve a broader industry challenge of like onboarding the next wave of builders and devs. So look out for a really big announcement coming fall that we're prepping for. And then I would say India is popping for us. And so there are several stealth projects and partnerships at the highest levels there that I think will really improve daily life for the masses. So that is something we're really excited about, as well. Um, and then I really am just like, I think with some of our LATAM is a really important market for us. And I think in LATAM, we're seeing a rate of adoption and also from a B2B standpoint, a lot of opportunities, especially with some of our major projects. And so really excited there, to, again, seeing some like driving adoption and strengthening ecosystem partnerships there as well. And a lot of them around real world assets. And so one shout out I wanted to make was, for those who are at Consensus, you know, we had dropped about 10,000 unique Brave New World books, with book.io. And so if you didn't get a chance to grab one, because you're on this call, we we're gonna find a way. So we're gonna ask, maybe shoot either Eva or um, a, a note, an email, and we can send you a code. So we have a few that we can give out. So really want to give some love out to this crew that's listening in. And we believe, again, this whole idea of real world assets is just the beginning of bringing more knowledge and access to the masses. And of course, as I talked about, there's going to be some partnerships as well coming along, and more of the enterprise space that I really, really, really am excited about.
Wow, that's actually really amazing to hear. Like everything rolling out, and even like having like things to offer. Like for everyone that's joining this Twitter space, like this is such a great opportunity. So I wanted to say thank you so much for like extending that to us as well. But I wanted to ask you some questions about like for yourself, because since you worked at Meta, since you worked at Nike, and now you're with Algorand, and you've been a part of a lot of different leadership and marketing roles, I wanted to like get a better understanding of like what are some of like the specific like qualities, specific leadership qualities that you believe like are essential to be able to thrive and succeed in your role.
I think this is such a powerful question, and I think it's one that we're not asking enough as an industry. I really do feel that way. Um, I think for me personally, empathy, because I think so much of this space, and I think even my time at Nike, I would say like so much of it is about like understanding the insight of your consumer. So like really being able to put on and like internalize. And I'll share that like when I was at Nike, we would often have like, because we serve the athlete, and so we would have all these Nike athletes constantly in our offices, like runners, both like all the way from like a new to marathon runner to um like Elliot Kipchoge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like we would have them in, so we were breathing in and out like what the consumer's about. And so this idea of like empathy is incredibly important as a marketer. And I think even in this space, specifically in the Web3 space, I think it's really important to understand like the base needs. And I think everyone is thinking like, you just want to talk about why your chain is better, why your DApp is better, but like without really understanding and listening to your core community or your consumer, you're going to really miss out on driving a successful marketing strategy. So I would say empathy first. And I would say like empowerment. And this is something I think I've learned here more than anywhere else. Um, I think in the past, I was in very highly directive organizations. And so like Apple's a really good example, right? Like flawless, like from the very top, like directive, and then you execute. But in such a fluid world that we're moving in, where things change at such like a whim, and also in an industry that is shifting so quickly, I think empowerment of your people and empowerment of your community, which I'm still learning. And I'll be honest, like this is something I'm like, man, thinking every day, like how do we do this better? But like empowering and advocates, right? Like it needs to be your mantra. Otherwise, you can only do so much when when you're trying to direct and orchestrate something that can only happen once. And you cannot, and it's not a fluid organization that's able to meet the needs of the day, and be flexible enough. And so I think that level like agility and flexibility tied to empowerment, I think is incredibly important as a leader. And then finally, I would just say like, um, I think just like grace for yourself, because failure is imminent in this space. And like I think people are really harsh to one another in general in these times, because as you feel tighter, right? Things are tighter, and so I think there's so much opportunity for like kindness as a leader, and like kind honesty, because I think in this space, like it's so important for people to be transparent and like give honest feedback, but also like do it in kindness so that we can all grow together better. And I think that's just a really you know, important quality to have in this space now more than ever.
So I know that one big place of feedback for you is like the consumer of the product itself. But how do you, in a workplace environment, cultivate a how can I put it? Like an environment that people can like go up and openly ask you and like share their opinions, share their feedback, and know that even though like this could be like a boss to coworker scenario, that you will still be receptive and open to their ideas and that you will listen.
Yeah, and this is something I'm like that dynamic is real, right? So like it's a real dynamic. I think for me personally, I always try to make sure, like I say it up front. Even when I joined, I was like, I'm only gonna grow if, if I am given like honest feedback, obviously in kindness. And so like I tell all of my team, like, you have a direct line, like, and also a safe place. I also hold one-on-ones with my entire, both my directs and also, those who, report into them, so that I can have like, so they can have a safe space. So like, let's say there's something they might not want to say to someone else, and I'm like, you have a safe space with me as well here. Like, if there's anything you are seeing both in the community or just like in our team that you're like, hey, this is something that like we should look at, or even you, Jess, like there's something you need to like fix. I will say in these 6 months, I've gotten more feedback than I have in my like past roles. And I've had to pivot, on certain things, because I know like, being I think it's so incredible, like, and probably important to be like teachable, humble, and like hungry. Otherwise, like, we cannot, shift and pivot properly enough. So I just like continually like communicate, and I even tell people like, hey, someone gave me this great, I don't say who it is, but like someone gave me this great feedback the other day, this is how I'm pivoting. And just to kind of give examples to the larger group that like I am very open, and I want everyone to have that kind of, again, like that's what entrepreneurship is about, right? Like feedback loops. Otherwise, like, you cannot keep up and like grow and learn, in the right way. And feedback is a gift, and I say that a lot. And I've actually, so much so that like, I'm trying to find ways to incorporate it into our values and our brand values as a whole. And I think the community does a really good job, giving us feedback. It's important.
I know, at least for me, just reflecting on my life, and especially like over the past year, being a lot more open to feedback and like making sure that it's an environment where people can talk to you and discuss and share ideas without like holding their tongue or feeling hesitant can be such a relief, because it changes everything, because you get a better idea of how people truly feel. And if you have a better idea of how people truly feel, you can figure out how to improve the situation quicker or how to offer a better solution. But a lot of these things, especially everything that you've been preaching, it's something that you can only learn over time through experience. So let's say for like the students right now who are interested in Web3, they want to get involved with marketing. What would be some of like the first steps? Like, how can they even like jump into this industry and get involved?
Yeah, I highly welcome. I said this in at consensus when we had that talk. I highly encourage, one. I mean, we just kicked off our intern program, and it's been incredible being able to have. We actually have two, in our marketing, world, where they've already been able to like step up and learn. We definitely try to like include them in a lot of the conversations, just so they can pick up. A lot of it is just like being in the room, so you can pick up how people talk about things, how people think about things, how people approach. So I definitely just encourage, like, any internship you can get, go for it. Even if you don't get paid, like I remember doing, like, basically begging my way into a few internships, just so, and I was like, you can pay me like minimum wage. I just want to be in the room, just so I can listen and kind of, model, and in some ways like practice by just like being there. And then I think take on any project that you can, like any projects that you're like, a lot of people are desperate for some, like a lot of different orgs are desperate for help right now. And so like if you can just like offer a hand and be like, hey, like I would love to like help out here and there. And but I just like, my main thing that I want is like, I want you to coach me, right? I think that's always a great way to do it. And then also, yeah, if you meet anyone that is like hyper inspirational, which I have in my career, I am shameless, and I just be like, hey, like, I do remember a few times I'm like, oh my gosh, this person is incredible, and I would just reach out to them and I'd be like, hey, can you just give me like 15 minutes of your time? And I just really love to get to know you, kind of get a sense of like how you got here, and where you, and I would say like, bar to none, like, for me at least, like 98% of people are like, you know what, like, yeah, I'll give you my 15 minutes, 30 minutes, just to talk to you about it. And I say a lot of those conversations have opened significant doors, for me, as I've kept in touch with them. So yeah, I just think the Web3 space is actually very open, especially at least the one I've met so far, like incredibly open to like meet, include, and bring people along, especially those who are new, because the space itself is so nascent. So definitely take every opportunity you can, and yeah, and also like know that you have folks here as well, in like me and the foundation as well to reach out if you want to learn more.
Thank you, Jess, and Clifford. Those have been such beautiful answers and such great questions. So I really want to dive into a little bit deeper, like your day to day, what that looks like, given the fact that you've talked about values and leadership qualities. So I'm really curious, Jess, to hear like what does a day in your life look like?
Oh man. It's definitely less glamorous than anyone would think, probably. My life probably looks a lot like everyone else's in this room, and that I think especially during the pandemic, and then even now, it's largely at home. And I have two kids, so I definitely like begin with the kiddos, and then yeah, I'm just like hunkered down. So we work in Slack, so I do a lot of like Slack kind of conversations, really trying to do certain things async to ensure that we can solve. A lot of it is like solving problems, helping people through, coaching people to think through problems, and also like ensuring that everyone has what they need. So a lot of my work is like resource, ensuring that like my team is resourced, people have what they need, and also everyone has clarity of like what is our North Star, where are we headed. And so I would say like day to day, like I will say yes. I try to not fill it with meetings, but there are like meeting with external opportunities, meeting with team members, one-on-ones, also just ensuring that like decision making as well, and then also just ensuring a lot of that, again, as I was saying, like listening. So like meeting with folks in the community, meeting with different projects, listening, is it's a very broad mix. I would say none of my days look exactly the same, but I am at my desk very, very long, and then also on Slack morning and night. So I guess that's kind of a mix of what my day looks like.
Cool, amazing. Thank you. Yeah, it's always important for me to ask that question. For those of us that are maybe looking into the realities of the workforce, I think it's important to have those questions answered. Okay, so this is the last question for me, Clifford. I'm not sure if you have any others, but then we can ask the audience if they have any questions for Jess, for Clifford, or for myself. I would love to hear what are some of the approaches that Algorand has taken to kind of like differentiate the brand identity in in the minds of users and other developers.
Yeah, this is a really good one. And I'll say, it's been a really big deep dive into our competitive set, right? And so like when I think about a lot of the, like we say that a lot of, like outside of Ethereum, a lot of everyone else is talking mainly speeds and fees. Um, and but there is this overall value proposition, which I think around like longevity, community decentralization, um, where I think is incredible for us to think about how we also establish ourselves. Um, and so for me, I think one thing that in general, like it's very tech heavy, like using a lot of terms that the normal human being does not understand, is what I see is what's happening in a lot of blockchain platforms and in general. So there's a huge opportunity of becoming like much more human, much more conversational, um, and again, like explaining things in an educational, but also like almost like edutainment way, because a lot of the topics that are covered are just very hard for the average person to like mentally overcome, and really like there's a lot of mental barriers for comprehension. And so that's like point one around like there we are going to shift and continue to try to shift to be much more like understandable. I think again this idea of like solving like real world problems, for developers and builders, and like really coming around them with like um, what I call like a hug strategy, right? So like really coming around them with like feeling like we are actually coming around and like providing resources and tools versus, just trying to like take. So this idea of, again, like what kind of benefits are we bringing to the table is also something I'm excited to bring forth. And because ultimately end users only care about the ease of use if you're actually solving a real world problem for them. And then finally, like, I think our tech is like bar to none, like incredible. And what Silvio has founded and what like the team continues to like build on and evolve. So I think being really crystal clear of, the reliability, certainty, and scalability and security that we bring at scale is 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 really critical for us to kind of pound in over and over again. So I think driving consistency in our messages will actually, really also help us differentiate, because it's incredibly important to be consistent when everyone else is kind of just like switching messages against like whatever tide turns. Um, so I think those are some things that come to mind. Um, a lot more to come. Again, like there's gonna be I know another community town hall end of July for those who are part of the Algo fam. So we're gonna be sharing a lot more in terms of positioning, value prop, and like really um, where we feel like, Algorand has a very strong place to play and has the proof points for it. So I'm excited to share more then.
I wanted to like I wanted to get like a I wanted to talk to you and just get a better idea of how can like students like help support everything that Algorand is doing, because you've shared a lot of interesting things that you guys are working on and even some exciting things that are coming during the summer and during the fall. So what can students do to really get involved and to support what you're doing?
Yeah, there is so much. I would say we're definitely, so you should be seeing from us like publishing a bunch of events that we're going to be at soon in the fall. And I think, again, depending where you are, for example, if you're a LATAM student, like we're going to be at LibitConf in a big way, and we're going to have some great community activations events, also featuring a lot of our projects down there. I think like if I were a student in LATAM, like definitely show up, definitely meet like a bunch of the community. Fred, who is, in the marketing team, he's incredible. Fred Estante, like definitely come say hi. And he also has a huge passion, for students as well. Like, so definitely, one, like come out to our events, meet the community, get plugged in. Like there's a tons of projects as well that I think would love a hand. So like, for example, like I know we're going to be featuring like Travel X, Agro Token, and a few other folks, all part of the LATAM community at LibitConf. Like maybe volunteer or like raise your hand and be like, hey, I would love to help out. I would say those are some great ways. I think secondly, we're going to be announcing a slew of hackathons and boot camps. Some really fun ones. I'm not going to break the news on some of the announcements tied to that, but that's also a great way to get involved if you're a dev or a student engineer, and wants to like start building and thinking. Those are great ways to get involved as well. And then finally, like if you're really interested in marketing, I would say like definitely like join in our intern program. And then also like I think we'll be putting out a lot more marketing resources in the next few months, just around like ways to think about like marketing. We're gonna hold some like workshops and one-on-ones to really come alongside folks as well. So all those ways are some great ways to plug in.
Amazing. Thank you, Jess. Thank you so much for all the knowledge. I definitely learned a lot from this conversation. Um, I'm wondering if there's any questions in the audience, if anybody would like to come up and ask a question to Jess, Clifford, or myself. This would be the moment to do so. And if so, you can send an emoji or request to be speaker.
Yeah, I mean, right now I see there's two people who are trying to speak, so I want to give them just one moment to try to connect. But I want to say just once again, this has been a great experience overall, and like I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your schedule, your very busy schedule, to be able to like sit down, join this Twitter space, and just talk to the community.
No, it's been a joy. Yeah, this, like, again, what you guys are doing from a blockchain education standpoint is like truly a really incredible like pillar for us, and like we're just so happy to be partners. So anything on our end that we can help, onboard the next wave of students in this space is happy to, happy to support. I'll say just like last thing, for those who are like not sure of like your career and you imagine it as like it looks like it's just like a really single path up. When you look at, for example, when you hear about, people who you feel like have made it, I'll really tell you like and give you an inside secret. It's lots of twists and turns. No one really knows where they're going or what they're doing, and a lot of it is about enjoying the journey and just taking those risks, and mainly just trying to learn as much as you can. So curiosity is going to be your best partner, and don't feel like it has to look a certain way, because it doesn't. And then, yeah, you could shoot me a DM on Twitter if you want to chat more. And then also, I would just say, yeah, we'll pass on a few of the book coupon codes or the book drop over to Eva. So for those who join, definitely want to just give you guys a little bit of love.
Great. We have some people in the audience that are interested in speaking. So, Makai, passing the mic over to you, and then Footy City Algo, you can go after.
Yeah, hey guys. Awesome chat. Thanks so much, Jess, for all your like insight and awesome responses to the questions. I guess like one thing that I've really seen, especially during this bear market, is like the kind of emergence of smaller Web3 communities and like all these new paradigms in marketing and community building. And I was just curious, like how are you guys applying that at Algorand? What are some of the trends you guys are seeing?
That's a great question. I'll be honest, I don't think I've fully figured that one out. I agree with you that there are tons of these micro communities popping up. And I'll just be honest, like there's a tension with like wanting to really drive mass market adoption, but also speak to the micro communities that exist. It's a tough one. And I think also evaluating which micro community, I think for me, a lot of it is like around influence. And I think influence is measured by um, is really measured by like how relevant are you to the broader conversation. And so I think it's tapping the micro communities, one, who actually really do value the partnership, and then also one that you're solving a problem for. And so I think again, like there are some I'm personally, of course, this is a very personal thing, I'm very excited about some of the women micro communities I'm seeing come to life, and those who bring a level of expertise to the table and whose voices haven't really been heard. And so I think they're a very undertapped and underrepresented group that I am excited to think about. How we and I think Algorand in so many ways, like some really powerful projects of ours really tap into women micro communities, all the way from like Afghan women, and to like women who are like creators and like really like building really unique new things in the space. So I think there's one of like, does this micro community really match your values? And then two, like, are they on the same path? Like, do they have the same goals, or is there shared goals, shared vision? And then ultimately, like, ensuring that there is not, that you're not pigeonholing yourself into like too small of a niche that you're not able to drive mass adoption. So those are the things I think about.
That's amazing, Jess. I know we have some other people who would like to come up. Let's hear Footy City Algo.
Hey, evening from New York. I had a question for Jess. Um, so for someone like myself, like I'm already like well established into my job field. Like I work full time at a hospital as a pharmacy liaison, and I've delved into Algorand developing. I have a small project running. It's an idle game. Very into gaming and game development. So for someone who's not really able to participate full time or like commute to an internship, what would you recommend are the best resources for learning, especially with AlgoKit just coming out too?
That's great. And it's so great to meet you. I love meeting folks that are in our community. I would say there's a few. I mean, if I'm pretty sure you're already probably chatting with or following John Woods, but from a technical perspective, there's like Our team, like Fred and team, have created an awesome algo dev account for those who want to get more like technical and have like real world education. Chris Kim, who's on our developer relations team, is incredible. He, we joke that he is, the young face of the DevRel team, and he does a great job. Really, he has a zero to hero course on all things Algorand from a technical perspective, and education. It's really good material. So that's just like a great way to kind of have baseline education. And then I would say we're also, really deep diving from a blog perspective of really revamping how we talk about our different protocols like DeFi, etc. And then also providing more education from a copy standpoint. We're actually launching an XGov video. So you should be seeing a lot more content that should be education based from us. So that's like content. And then I would say definitely reach out. Like I know Stacy holds a 101, and I like an open office hours. There's also like ways to engage with the community itself. I've loved, like, for example, like just sitting down with Michael Jordan for like 30 minutes and kind of listening and talking to him and learning more about it, or even just Fred Estante, who just has so much experience and so much like history. Those are great ways to plug in. And then I think becoming an advocate, like in outside of just the Algorand ecosystem, who are the people that we can pull in and be advocates for Algorand, I think is something that we really are looking to build. So there's going to be more coming out on like how we can imagine more like advocacy, both like micro all the way to macro, across the board. So those are definitely some interesting ways to get plugged in.
All right, thank you. Thanks for sharing all those resources. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your question, and yes, Jess, thank you for your answer. Lastly, let's bring up MH. Please go ahead and introduce yourself and ask your question.
Hello, everyone. Greetings from Rio, Brazil. So first of all, congratulations, Jess, for the amazing work in such a short time. You can really see the difference from before, the coherence and everything else. And my question is about like if somebody has from the community has like ideas for like projects that could lead to more adoption. Is there a pool to receive these ideas, or is there a contact point or something like it? That's it.
Yes, I love that question. Two things we will be launching. This is kind of like early sharing, but we are looking at one, launching easier ways for projects to kind of tap in and reach out. So we'll again like formalizing it a bit more. So that's one side. And then for those who have projects that you feel like would be really helpful to drive mass adoption, and you feel like there's great POCs. One, if you are in LATAM, I definitely recommend like sharing it with the LATAM team, the community team on the ground. So, they're incredible. Like Camilo, Fred, etc. Like, they're all there on the ground, and so like definitely piping in that way is great. I have brought in a new head of ecosystem and developer marketing. His name is Scott Olson, and he's actually from Consensus. He's fantastic. And so he's also been a great person for us to bring in more relevant projects as well too. So again, like I would say those are kind of your main POCs, but definitely would say like, yes, please. Like, I feel like actually to the earlier question of like how you can help, if you ever get any incredible projects that you feel like either one are unhappy where they are, or two like are looking for a chain to like really integrate on, I think everyone here, we're all kind of in BD, right? So I would really welcome like referrals of all kinds of really meaningful projects to our ecosystem.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much for your question. It's been such a pleasure to spend my afternoon with all of you. Thank you, Jess, again for your time. Thank you to everybody that joined, to those of you that joined since the very beginning and are still with us. Thank you. To those that ask questions, thank you. Stay tuned. BAF does these sessions with the Algorand team And yeah, we're so excited to learn from you all and to continue building together. And if you are a student and you are interested in either bringing blockchain to your university, or you have a club and you're wanting to take it to the next level, please reach out to Blockchain Acceleration Foundation. We're here to support you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, guys. This was a great conversation.
Absolutely. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thanks all.
Bye, everybody.